the Sugar Plum Robin Knitting Podcast. My name's Ray. I'm coming to you today from Edinburgh, where I live in Scotland, and this is Willow, my cat, who is very affectionate today and wanted to join in. Say hello to the people. Hello, Willow. There she is. And yeah, it's a sort of a slightly overcast day today. I wish it was sunnier. It's nearly summer. Where is the sun? Scotland doesn't get much sun. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of my knitting and some of the projects that I'm working on, and you're very welcome. I hope that you have a nice time here with me today. If you have your knitting there to hand, or any other making that you might like to do, maybe some embroidery or cross stitch or crochet or anything, then I hope that you're making along and having a lovely peaceful time and you have a bit of quiet in your day. That's how I like to enjoy knitting podcasts. I tend to have a moment, often at the start of the day before everyone else has woken up, when I can have a little bit of peace and quiet, and I can sit with my knitting and watch a knitting podcast, and it's very lovely. So, welcome. Today I'm going to share a poem at the start and end of the podcast, as I always do. If you're new, I'm a poet and I love poetry, so I always start and end each episode of this podcast with a short poem, sometimes by me, but usually not. So today, neither of them are by me. And then I'm going to talk about some of the things I'm working on, and I'm going to also tell you who is the winner of the giveaway that I mentioned last time I podcasted, and just catch up and have a chat about knitting. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. I've got a bit of a cold this week. My nails are also, I'm catching sight of it on the screen, my nails are bright red because my son Robin, who has special needs, he wanted me to paint them bright red last night, so I did before bed, because I would do just about any silly thing to make him happy. So yeah, I've got a bit of a cold, just really mild, but if I'm a bit sniffly, then that's why. And I have my cup of tea with me today. It's a podcasting thing, I don't know why, but it seems to be tradition to talk about what you're drinking. So I'm drinking some cranberry tea to just try and help my throat and my sinuses a little bit. It's Twinings, it's very nice. Okay, so anything that I mentioned today, pattern wise, I'll try and put links to in the description. I say try because sometimes I forget one or skip over one when I'm doing it. Often I record these videos in the daytime when Robin's at school, but today is a Friday, so he's at school just for the morning. So then I'll try and edit it in the afternoon, but he'll be at home and he's a bit chaotic, so I'm there like trying to watch him and look after him, but also like upload the video and edit it. And then by the time it's the evening and I'm putting it on YouTube and writing out the description, my brain is so frazzled that sometimes I completely forget some of the things. So if I ever mention something and then I don't put a link to it or explain about it and you want to know more, please do just get in touch, just drop me a comment, or you can email me. My email is sugarplumrobin@gmail.com, and you can get in touch with me there. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm sugarplumrobin on Instagram, and you can find me on Twitter, where I'm at Smachel. But Twitter, although I do post lots of my knitting stuff on there, I mostly use it to talk about writing stuff and parenting stuff and other things like that. So whereas my Instagram is just knitting. I've been kind of terrible at keeping my Instagram up to date the last few weeks, or last few months maybe even. I'm very bad at it. So I will try and remember to post there a bit more often. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a poem, and today I thought it might be interesting to share a couple of poems from Shetlandic poets. So poets who live in or are from Shetland, and the two poets I've chosen write both in English and Shetlandic, so some of their poems are in the Shetlandic language. I'm not going to attempt to read them, but I'm going to read some of their poems that are in English. The first one that I'm going to read is by a Shetlandic poet called Christine de Luca. This pamphlet of hers is called That Trickster Sun, and it's one of my favourite pamphlets of hers. So if you don't know, a pamphlet is like a really small book of poems it doesn't have like a full spine usually, and it's maybe 20 to 24 pages of poems usually, and I really like them. I have like a whole big shelf of them on my poetry bookcase, which I'm looking at directly over there, just for pamphlets, because I think they can give you a really nice little like taster of what a poet is about. And I also think that because they're not like they don't have the kind of weight of a full collection, a full book, I think often you can find that the poems you get in pamphlets are a little bit more experimental or a little bit more out there and interesting. So I really like pamphlets as a little way of finding out more about a poet and getting a taste of what they're about. So today, Christine De Luca is a Shetlandic poet who now lives in Edinburgh. She is very well known and her poems are exquisite. I'm going to read a poem for you today called The House Where I Was Born. A blackbird balances on my wool basket, deft thief of core lining. Does she know how comical she looks with her colonel's moustache? She glances over an urgent shoulder. Her frantic days are spent provisioning. Maybe a large clutch, a catching up. There was a lark and a cuckoo the morning after I was born. The war was over. It was time to catch up, celebrate life, soften the edges of stern utility. I sensed the house was big and bare, from stories of my brother tearing round the flagstone kitchen in his pedal car, of draughts and coppered floods in sculleries, of scares like whooping cough and watching for the boat that brought the doctor. You held me upside down to get my breath. Your diary is full of provisioning. That summer was long and warm for a place so far north. Did you sit me in the pram or high chair to watch daft hens snitch from your careful seedbed? No wonder I grew fast. 4 crops of peas, 2 of broad beans, red currants, black currants, strings of onions and shallots, the salad crops, 1st and 2nd radishes and lettuce, cress, broccoli and Brussels, cabbage and potatoes, beets and turnips. Did I pull at the hollyhocks standing tall, the gladioli, the perfumed wallflower you always grew? I would have been tucked up in my cot by the time you stowed the tushka, the 12th barrowload of peats. My woolen blanket was a product of your weaving shed, a winter hobby. We took it, soft and Shetlandy, to our next home, the one remembered, inhabited. So I like that poem particularly because it mentions the woven blanket. Shetland, I think, has got this really important place in knitting tradition and in the knitting community. It's a really interesting place, but it also has this really strong literary tradition, and so I love it. I've never actually been, but I would love to go. So let's move on to some knitting content, starting with what I'm wearing today. It is spring here. I am in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm in Scotland, but I'm feeling a bit autumnal, I guess, so I'm wearing a bit of an autumnal jumper. This is my Arboreal jumper by Jennifer Steingass. In some of the comments to my last posts, I really liked the ones, I had some people mention that they like that I often knit with more affordable yarn, cheaper yarn, with acrylic yarn, because we can't all always afford the more expensive stuff, much as, you know, I would love to always be knitting with gorgeous, expensive, beautiful things. And I mean, I do splash out occasionally on nice yarn, especially if I've had like a birthday, or if my writing brings in a bit more money than I'm expecting, then maybe I might splash out on some more precious yarn. But generally I tend to not. I actually remember reading someone online, someone who sold yarn, like who ran a knitting shop saying, well, you know, you wouldn't think anything of spending 80 or £100 on a pullover, on a good pullover, but you would, but then people don't want to spend that much on the yarn. And I remember thinking, oh wow, like that's a different world to me, because actually I would never spend that much on any item of clothing, and most of my clothes come from the charity shop. So I mean, I get what she was saying, but no, I don't think I've ever in my life spent 80 to £100 on a single item of clothing. And that's not to say it's not worth it. Definitely it is worth it. It's just beyond my budget. So yeah, so all that to say that this pullover, yeah, gorgeous pattern by Jennifer Steingass, and the yarn that I used for the majority of it, this kind of tweedy yarn, I don't know if you can see that very well, with the flecks of orange and brown to it. This is Serdar Hayfield Bonus Aran. Which is a mix of, I've written it down, so I've just got it here on my right, so I'm looking over at it. 6% viscose, 20% wool, and 74% acrylic. And I thought, actually, I don't often mention the cost of yarn, but I bought this yarn, it was in my stash for a really long time, but I looked up where I got it from, and I got it originally from Wool Warehouse online. And I looked up the price of it currently, which is £10.49 per 400 gram ball. That comes in these big 400 gram balls, which is just a bargain. And I think I only used one 400 gram ball for this. And I think I mentioned this on the podcast I did when I first knitted it. So that was last year, I think. Was it in 2021? Yeah, so you can probably go and see it, or if you've been watching for a while, you've probably seen it already. But yeah, Serdar Hayfield Bonus Aran, really inexpensive. And then the colourful bits here were scraps that I had in my stash, and they are, I think it's Let Lopi, and something drops for this one. Now, I believe that the pattern for this calls for a DK weight yarn, or maybe a worsted weight yarn, but this is an Aran weight yarn. But that was fine. I just made a size down and knitted it until I was happy with the length, basically. I also didn't do any waist shaping on it, and I knit it so it goes kind of, well, I knit it straight down, and then did, instead of ribbing, I did, I don't know if you can see this here, just a few rows of garter stitch. I really didn't want it to tuck in at the bottom. I wanted it to go, well, sort of loose and be that kind of, I think it's more of a modern shape, isn't it? A bit boxy. And I wasn't sure if I liked it afterwards, and I thought maybe I would rip it back and redo it. Sorry, the camera is jiggling because my cat Willow is all over the place today. Willow, what are you up to? So yeah, I wasn't sure if I was happy. I thought I might redo it, but actually it works really well, because having so much acrylic in here means that this fabric isn't exactly very breathable. So it's nice to get a bit of kind of breathability from the looser bottom bit, rather than if it was tucked really close to me and it would be, you know, maybe a bit too much. And also it's really a jumper that I tend to wear in more transitional weather. So maybe in the autumn when it's a bit cool but not properly freezing like it gets in the winter in Scotland. So not, you know, at the level where you need like your thermals and many layers and thick wool, but at the point where it's getting a bit windier, then so you do need something a little warm. So yeah, so I think it works well. The shape of it gives it a little bit of breathability while keeping it still warm, especially across here. So that's what I'm winning. So before I get stuck into my whips, because I've got no finished objects today, before I get stuck into my whips, I will let you know the giveaway winner. So I did a drawing on my laptop just before recording here, and I will put a screenshot on the screen just now of the winner. So I will send you a message, and yeah, I will send you the yarn, just to remind you the yarn for the giveaway was this this really nice Willow. I turned away for 1 second. Are you saying hello to all the people again? Yes, that's right. It was this Yak Wool's Shine Sport in the colourway Sprout, and I've got 2 skeins of it, so I will send that off to you in the post as soon as I get your address. I really loved all the comments on my last post, on my last episode. Thank you so much, that was really lovely, and it's so nice to hear about what you're all making, and lovely to hear messages from people who've been watching since my first episode that I uploaded. And I know that I'm not the most regular uploader, life very much gets in the way for me, but it was lovely to hear from some of you who've been along for the whole journey, and some of you who are newer as well. That was really lovely too, who just found me from that last episode or who joined more recently. Yeah, and just lovely to hear about what you're all making. I love to hear what other people are knitting. It always inspires me in my own knitting and making. Gives me ideas for things I want to do. So let's move on to some whips. Okay, so the first whip is that one that I can't show you. So I'm doing a secret test knit, which I can't show you. It's due to be released in February of next year, which is outrageous. How am I supposed to wait that long to show you a project? And actually that's what I've been spending almost all my time doing. I've nearly finished it. The deadline passed yesterday, so I'm a bit gutted that I didn't finish it. Some stuff came up in the last sort of week or so which delayed my knitting and took up a lot of my brain and meant I wasn't really able to focus too much on it. It was life stuff, but I emailed the designer and explained it. She was really nice about it and really understanding, and said that was fine. I have finished most of it, so I think it was able to give like the feedback that was needed, which was very little because it was a very polished pattern. And as I said before, it's quite an intricate pattern at quite a small gauge, so it takes a long time to knit, and it slightly hurts my hands because it's quite a thick yarn at a very tight gauge and lots of kind of texture as well, so it hurts my hands and my fingers to work on it for too long. So I find I'm having to take a lot of breaks, and it's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would, but the finished thing is actually really stunning. It's so beautiful. I get a lot of comments on it when I'm working on it somewhere out in public. People say, oh, that's amazing, or that looks really complicated, and which is lovely. Actually, as a little aside, do you find this? I find there are kind of two kinds of projects for me, or 2 kinds of motivations behind projects. So I really like it, and it's maybe a bit vain, but I really like it when somebody, whether they're a knitter or not or whatever, sees something I'm working on or something that I've made and it's like, wow, did you make that? That's amazing. And it gives you this little flush of like, oh yeah, I did make that. Actually, it's pretty cool, isn't it, that we can make these complicated things? And yeah, I do feel quite accomplished, and yeah, I've spent like 30 years of my life honing this skill, and I am a bit proud of it. But I also think that then that those projects aren't necessarily always the most wearable ones, and then I also like projects that are just kind of ones that actually I would choose to wear or buy if I saw it in a shop, or ones that are just more me, which maybe are more simple and less wow. And often those ones are also more fun to knit because they're sort of soothing and relaxing. So there's these two knitters inside me. And yeah, but this project is definitely one of those ones that is a bit of a wow, but is complicated to knit and not the most fun to knit. I mean, it's beautiful, it's not difficult, it's not it's a well-written pattern. It's just that it's hurting my hands a little and it's taking a really long time. So being mindful of that and wanting some instant gratification, I decided to cast on this project which I showed you last time the beginnings of, and I've been working a bit more on. It is the Chunky Dahlia sweater pullover, and it is by, I've written her name down but I will no doubt pronounce it wrong and I'm so sorry, Lena Home Samso. So again, I'll put the link in the description of this video. But yes, this is it. This is the pattern. This is the project. Now I am knitting it with this, again, very, very cheap, affordable yarn, which is this, it's called something like Yak Wool or something. And it is, I wasn't sure it was from last time, or one of the commenters on the last video mentioned it. So it's from AliExpress, which is a website from which you can order things from like places like China and so on, which are often incredibly low priced. It's can take a long time for the stuff to arrive, and it's always a bit of a hit and miss as to what you're getting and the quality of it and whether the description actually matches what you get. I'm really happy with this wool, and it cost me like less than £10 for a pack of 5, which is a lot, but I have no idea exactly how much is in each ball. I just got 5 balls of it. I didn't actually know when I ordered it what thickness the yarn was or what was in it. It was just called Yak Wool, but I didn't know if it actually had yak in it or what. When it came, I used like the Google Lens thing to translate the label, and the label said that it has, I can't remember the exact proportions, but it's got acrylic, wool, and then a small percentage of yak, like 10% yak, and then the rest is wool and acrylic. It's a lovely yarn actually to work with. It's very soft, it's very squishy. It's definitely got the feel of acrylic. I can definitely feel that there's acrylic in it, but it's not scratchy like acrylic. It feels really nice. And you can definitely feel the wool in there, and then the softness to it as well. It's very, very airy and squishy and kind of lovely, actually. And very smooth and soft to work with, which has been really nice on my fingers and my hands. And I think it's a chunky weight, like just a little bit above Aran weight. So and it's in this lovely deep foresty green. But what you might have noticed from the pattern, from the project, you notice these big stripes of different colours. So I don't know if they're just all from wildly different dye lots or what. They're all supposed to be the same colour. The labels are all the same, but the different yarns, there's like a darker bit here, a lighter bit here, really dark here, lighter again. It's really funny. The colours are just so unmatched and so uneven. And I kind of love it. So I teach creative writing as well, and in my teen creative writing class last week, we were doing some writing where we took words that don't have a direct translation into English and thought about and wrote about them and the concepts behind them, and because I think that's really interesting. But one of the words we looked at was a Japanese term called wabi-sabi, which it kind of means to find an aesthetic beauty in imperfection. And I think that's how I feel about this, because I've definitely knit projects where one ball has been a different dye lot and you could see it, and I've been really gutted and been like, no, that's ruined it. But I don't feel that with this. Every time it came up just so different with a new ball, it just made me smile. I don't know, it just made me really happy. So I'm definitely feeling the wabi-sabi with this one. Look at those really obvious stripes. I kind of love it. I kind of love it a lot. I feel like bizarrely attached to it, and I think I'm going to wear this so much. And the reason why I wanted to make this one, especially with this pattern with the leaves and this like soft, warm forest green yarn was because I wanted to wear this when I'm going out, you know, on my walks, my hikes out in the woods. And I spend a lot of time in the woods, just basically a hedge witch, and I spend so much time out there and I love it, and I only feel properly calm, I think, when I'm there. So this was like a kind of rambling around in the woods looking for mushrooms project. So it doesn't have to be smart or beautiful or, you know, even it can be just something that makes me happy and serves its function, and I think it will be both of those things very, very nicely. So I'm very happy with it, despite the weird kind of goings on with the colour. It's knitting up really fast. It's got a really lovely folded over neckline. It's worked top down. It's got this lovely leaf design here. I'm making a size smaller than the pattern recommends for my bust size. I'm going down a size because the pattern it's really beautiful, but it recommends like quite a lot of ease, quite a baggy jumper and quite short, sort of cropped, not exactly super cropped, but definitely on the shorter side length. And I'm sort of reversing that. I'm making it a little bit more fitted, not very fitted, but so it's just got maybe 2 inches of ease rather than, you know, 6 inches of ease. And it's a bit longer because I want it to be, as I said, something I can wear in the woods, something that's more practical, that I could wear under a jacket, and that is going to be warm and cover my hips a bit, my bum, keep my bum warm. And so yeah, so that's what I wanted, and I've been trying it on as it goes, and it's lovely. So I'm nearly finished the body. It's about as long as I want it, so I've moved on to the rib at the bottom. It's uses a 4.5, well, I think I'm going down a needle size from what's recommended, maybe not. I think I'm using a 4.5mm needle for the ribbing and a 6mm needle for the body. I think that's what I'm using, which might be the recommended needles, I can't remember. But it's going really fast, and it's a really nice fun knit, and it's very sort of easy, round and round stockinette after the lace. And the lace is dead simple, really well laid out in the chart, and really beautiful. Yeah, nice pattern, nice, very, very inexpensive project. However, I'm on the 5th ball of yarn, because obviously when the yarn came I had no idea, I still have no idea of the yardage. I have no idea of how much is in a ball. So when it came, I just sort of said, well, we'll just do it. I've gotten to the bottom here. I'm on the last ball. I've got this much left. So I've ordered another pack of 5. But again, it still will mean that, I think the project all in all, including shipping, will have cost about £15, which for me, that seems like a bit of a bargain, especially for something that's got wool and yak in it and that I really enjoy. So yeah, that's another lovely project, which I'm nearly finished, or nearly finished on the body, and then the sleeves will take on, I think, with this thick yarn and big needles. Okay. My next work in progress, and this will be my last one that I'm sharing for today, because the others that I have haven't had much progress to them, is a really nice one too. So again, it's quite a chunky pattern, and it is this here. I've just got one sleeve done, so here it is. Here is the sleeve finished. This little bit of colour work here, and this is in Alaphoslopi, and the pattern is Autumn by Nazilia Zemdikanova, and it is a free pattern, and it's just kind of an Icelandic Lopapesa kind of pattern. So I've done this one sleeve. This is what I've done so far, and I'll do the other sleeve and the body, and then the yoke at the end. I really like these kind of designs, because I feel like the yoke bit with all the fun colour work is like your reward for getting through all of the rest of it. And so I'm always really looking forward to it. It motivates me to push ahead with the body and the sleeves because I want to get to that fun bit and see all the colours at the top. So as I mentioned, this yarn is Alafoslopi, which is a chunky yarn, Icelandic, very rustic. It's got this nice fluffy halo to it. It's quite, I don't find it really scratchy, but I know some people do. So it's definitely the kind of, it's an outerwear kind of thing. And this is going to be warm. So this is not for me. I'll show you the different colours that I chose, and this is going to be the main body colour. It's this lovely sand colour. It's beautiful. The depth of these colours is really lovely. So that's this one. And then it's got this grey as a contrast colour. And also this brown. And this deep green. A whole sweater in this colour. It's beautiful. You can see I'm on like a green kick, a dark green kick at the moment. So here we go. Lovely earthy colours. And I got this yarn from Bee Inspired Fibres, which is a yarn shop in Marchmont here in Edinburgh, which is lovely. I love it. It's like such an Aladdin's cave. You walk in there and it's just full of treasure, full of absolutely gorgeous yarn. So I can really recommend it. And yeah, it's a lovely place. So again, Alafoslopi, it's as far as wool goes, I think of it as quite an affordable yarn. It's 100% wool and it's really nice, but it doesn't, I think it costs, you know, £6 or £7 a ball. But bear in mind that because it is so chunky, you do need quite a few balls to make a whole garment because there's not so much meterage in each ball. So the story behind this is supposed to be a gift. If it works out well and the right size and everything, it will be a gift for my friend. So here's how it goes. I have a friend who is really, really knit worthy. She loves my knitting. She's so appreciative. She's so admiring of everything that I make. You know, one of these people who everything I make she thinks is delightful and she oohs and ahs, wants to see it and everything. And I think every knitter deserves a friend like that. And so I knit her a lot of little things, but mostly it's little housewares and homewares, little things, because she likes to make like little seasonal displays in her house and lovely things like that. So, you know, I make her bunting and I knit her little animals to put in her displays, or I made her like kind of like a bunting but with like autumn leaves and acorns and things to hang and things like that. So I've never made her a garment before, but I have wanted to for a while, and it was like the ultimate challenge to me as a knitter. She went to this cafe, this board game cafe with her daughter, and there was a woman knitting there on an Icelandic style jumper made in Lopi wool, and my friend was admiring this so much. I wasn't there. She was admiring this so much that she took pictures and sent it to me going, oh, this lady's making this jumper, it's so amazing. And she showed it to me later and said, oh, that's so amazing, do you think you could make something like that? And I was like, yes, I could make something like that. I absolutely could. I feel like, yes, that's a challenge. That's fighting talk. Of course I could make. So I'm trying to make this for her, an Icelandic style pullover, because I'm that easy to manipulate. No, because of course I want to make her. I saw that she really liked it, and I thought, well, I've been waiting for the right thing to make her for a while as a surprise, and I know she likes this, so that's the kind of thing I will make. So I just picked some colours that I thought she would like, and she's another one who likes kind of natural, earthy kind of colours like me. So that's what I'm going for, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it comes out. My gauge is off from the pattern, but I'm kind of using the sleeve as a swatch. My gauge is slightly tighter but only a little bit. And I always have a slightly tighter gauge on the sleeves with the small circumference. So I think actually my gauge will be spot on for the body. And I think the sleeves aren't going to be too tight for her. I think they'll fit. So I'm just making sure the length is fine, but it's knit to a certain amount of centimetres rather than knitting a certain number of rows. So I think it will work fine. I just have to keep an eye on the gauge once I start the body, I think. So this was another one that I cast on as sort of a treat to myself. I think knitting with Icelandic wool, I love it. And it is, I don't know, it just has this really interesting quality in colour work where I think because of this like fuzziness of it, it just looks, I don't know, like something from a storybook. Does that make sense? Like it looks so classical and traditional and like you're wearing a fairy tale. I don't know if that makes any sense. So I had a hard couple of weeks and I thought I'm going to cast on this lovely comforting fairy tale thing. It's like my nana's cooking, you know, it tastes really good, but it's also good for you. That's what it feels like. I don't know if any of that makes sense. I'm a poet and I just communicate in weird metaphors, so let's go with it. So yeah, so even though I was working on the other two projects quite devotedly, I just cast this on to be slowly working on in the background, and it goes again so fast. So even just spending a couple of hours on this, I've managed to do this sleeve, and it will take no time once it's my main project to knit up. So that is my final work in progress, and I'm going to finish up by mentioning a sort of older project that I made. Well, it's not that old. I made it in 2020 during that first lockdown. Which is a pullover that I made for my daughter Audrey. So I'll show it to you. Here it is. Here it is in all its glory. And the reason why I've pulled this out to share it with you right now is because my daughter has outgrown it. She outgrew it, I think by the end of last year she'd outgrown it. And so my son has been wearing it. He's only 6 and it is definitely too big on him, but he really likes wearing stuff that belonged to his big sister. I think he just wants to be like her and copy her all the time. And so he loves to wear it even though it's much too big for him. He has to roll up the sleeves and it's very adorable. But it's a nice, squishy, warm pullover. And I made this for her because my daughter, like me, she's incredibly outdoorsy. She really likes being outside, and she especially loves the beach. And in the summer of 2020, she was hugely missing being able to go to the beach and swim in the sea. And obviously we were all locked down and we couldn't get there, and she was really sad about it. So I made her this beach-themed pullover. Yeah. To try and cheer her up, and I think it did work. And in fact then later on in the year when we were able to go to the beach, she wore it to the beach, so I'll try and put in a photo of her wearing it at the beach. Very happy to be back. So this is the Beach Baby pattern by Christine H. Wilkins. I knit it in Drops Nepal, which is a wool and alpaca blend. It's Aran weight, it's inexpensive, and I knit the biggest size. And again, I think this might be a pattern that actually is supposed to be done in worsted weight yarn, but I did it in an Aran weight because I wanted to be slightly bigger than the biggest size, because Audrey she's quite a tall child and she was bigger than that. So I knit it in that bigger than the biggest size. The original pattern just has this colour work here, this yoke colour work. So I added some in on the sleeves, these waves here, and I added some in at the bottom here with all these layers of fish. I wanted it to have a bit more fun to it. And it's funny how kids can change so quickly, because at the start of 2020, Audrey was 8 years old, so I think 9 years old. she turned 9 in the first lockdown, in 10 in 2021. Yeah, and she's just turned 11. Yeah, so she was 8 years old at the start of 2020, and she liked wearing bright colours and fun things, and now she's an 11-year-old preteen who wouldn't be caught dead in anything but like black and hoodies and things. They changed so quickly. So now I'm happily knitting her black hoodies and things, but it's just interesting to me that this was exactly what she wanted back then, and now it's the complete opposite. She doesn't want anything sunshiny at all. So this goes to Robin, her little brother, who is pure sunshine. That's one of the things I really love about hand knits, is that they get so loved and there's a story to them and a history to them, and then you can pass them down from child to child, and after Robin wears it, I'm sure we will be sending it on to another child somewhere in the family. I have countless small nephews and nieces, so and many other small friends, so no doubt this will be passed on after it goes to Robin. And that's one of the lovely things about knitting and hand knitted things, and I suppose what they call slow fashion, that it's not meant to be used and thrown away. It's meant to be cherished and kept and passed on, and it's lovely, isn't it, that connection to the future and the past, to feel like we're just kind of one link in that little chain. I really like it. Okay, so that was why I thought I would mention this today. It just sort of touched me that it had been that my son Robin had started wearing it recently. I thought it was worth bringing up. So that's us about at the end of the knitting content, and I'm going to finish with another poem, and this poem is by Christine DeLuca, who wrote Dat Trickster Sun, is an older lady, and I thought I'd end with a poem by a younger Shetlandic poet. This is Roseanne Watt, and she is a younger Shetlandic writer. This book is her first collection. It's called Moder Dai, which means mother wave in Shetlandic, and her work is just so beautiful. So I thought, I was looking through trying to find one that might have some kind of knitting theme or connection, and this one I thought, in its own kind of slanted way, it does. This poem is called The Moth Trap. I never knew their marks were just darker shades of dust, that older moth wings fade like pages left open to the light. How in aging they unknow themselves, shed this powder of identity, grow soft into vanishings. Just imagine it, all that residue of you, wind blown through some flickering wooded night. Each mark, each word lifted, where all that's left is flight. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye.